Once Upon a Town is a little book by Bob Greene. He writes about his research as a journalist and shares a miracle story, so to speak, with us. In the early days of World War II, all rail traffic from east to west and from west to east went through the little town of North Platte, Nebraska. Many of you have driven through North Platte, didn't even stop, hardly saw it. But North Platte, Nebraska, somewhere between Denver and Lincoln or Omaha, is a familiar place along the route. So as troops were shipped east coast to west coast or west coast to east coast, they went through the little town of North Platte, Nebraska. There was a woman in North Platte who thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could meet the soldiers from the Nebraska National Guard and give them some refreshments, because the soldiers were not allowed off the troop train. They had to stay right on the train. She got permission and found out when the National Guard was supposed to be there. And so she organized some of the ladies there and brought sandwiches and food out there to the soldiers, cakes and everything. And they went out to the train, they boarded the train, and you should have seen the smiles on those soldiers' faces as they brought that food to them. These soldiers were heading off to who knows where, didn't know if they'd return. Many of them had never been out of their county, and now they were being shipped off to war. This meant the world to them, except it turned out that the group that Ray brought ladies to wasn't the Nebraska National Guard at all. They were soldiers from I don't know where. But they didn't have the heart to walk out after they brought the food in. So they served and they were well appreciated. It became an idea that blossomed in her mind. What if they met every train that had troops with food as a gesture of appreciation and support? And so they began to go out to each train with food supplies. Within a short time, they were recognized by the station master and given a little space. You can see in the corner there, it says North Platte Canteen. Can you read it? Yeah, you can see it there. They had a little space. They got permission from the military for the troops to unload from their train and go into the canteen for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So those ladies started feeding every troop train. Pretty soon, within a radius of 100 miles, other towns came in to take a day and serve the troops. It's estimated that they served somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 million troops during World War II, all coming through North Platte, Nebraska. They were met as they came off of the train by ladies with sandwiches and other supplies, fried chicken, cakes, cookies, all kinds of things. These ladies were giving of their supplies during a time of ration, so they had to sacrifice to make this happen. They had egg salad sandwiches coming out their ears to give these servicemen those supplies. They started running low on eggs. They had to have eggs at home too. So they went to a turkey farmer who had more eggs than he knew what to do with. He wanted the turkeys, not the eggs. A turkey egg's considerably bigger than a chicken egg, and some of the ladies had to learn to recalibrate their recipes, and they learned to whip up an angel food cake with turkey eggs instead of regular eggs. And then they made sandwiches out of those. They ran out of chickens, or started to run out of chickens for fried chicken. You can imagine an egg is a renewable resource, but a chicken, when they're made into fried chicken, that's a one-way trip for that chicken. So they sent the men that were too old for service, or the boys that were too young for service, out into the fields. Nebraska has plenty of pheasants, and so they started using pheasants creatively. The troops would outload from the train, come inside and enjoy the refreshments. They had magazines, they had cards they could write home and tell loved ones that they were okay and on their way. And they would enjoy some time of fellowship. Do you know when these soldiers later on were in the foxholes of France and Italy and other places, eating their cold rations, what was the topic of their conversation often? Did you have a chance to eat in North Platte? Do you remember what those ladies made for us? It made a lifelong impression. As Bob Greene interviewed these veterans years later, they often wept as they talked about the kindness and the generosity of that gesture to them. The whistle blew, and then they had to get back on the train, and the canteen stands as a memorial of people giving service to those in need. Don't try to stop and find the station, it's gone. They tore it down. There is a plaque about this high that talks and commemorates that event. But it just illustrates that we often don't take time to serve others. You say, I'm too busy. 10 minutes? 10 minutes made a lifelong impression in this case. 10 minutes can make a lifelong impression in other people's lives as well. You have 10 minutes.